Hi guys, Maria, founder of Travelries here. I founded Travelries to make it easier for you to take long-term trips like adult gap years and travel sabbaticals because while there is a ton of information out there for travelers today, it is mostly geared towards people on vacation. And that doesn't help you if you want to take a long-term trip. That kind of travel is super different. So we are here today with tip number 22 in our 30-day series of tips for long-term travelers. And my tip for you today deals with what to book in advance. Because when you travel long-term, you really have to think about, okay, do I want to book a year's worth of things up front? Or does it make more sense for me to book a couple things and then book things en route? And my tip for you is really try hard not to book too much in advance. And the reason is long-term travelers benefit tremendously from flexibility. And let me explain a little bit why. So on one hand, you as a traveler might not be the traveler you imagine yourself to be a few months down the road. You might change, you might get tired, you might deal with an injury. I hurt my back while I was traveling. Those things impact your trip and they impact how much you want to do. And, you know, this is a moment where as an adult, your time is your own. That is rare as an adult. And so, you want to be in a position to take advantage and do the things you want to do versus do the things that the you a year ago or 6 months ago said, oh, well, I'll definitely do that. I'll definitely squeeze that in. So that's one piece of it. Second thing is the world is always changing. Things are going on. There's a big weather event. There's a crisis. Your itinerary might change due to factors totally outside of your control, where you realize it's not safe, for example, to go to a particular area. Now, if you evolve or if there's a crisis and you decide you're going to change your itinerary, if you have booked everything in advance, you have raised the price of flexibility. Because now you have to put in time and labor to undoing everything, unbooking, canceling accommodation, activity, transit. It's complicated. And worse, some of that might be non-refundable. So that's a high price to pay. And that's why I really recommend booking as little as possible. However, you do need to book some things before you start your trip. Or by certain points along the way. So what do I recommend you definitely book in advance? It's a few things. One is your entry and exit into whatever country you are heading to first, and to any country subsequently. Before you enter, you need your exit booked. So let me give an example because I didn't phrase that great. If I'm flying to Italy, I need my exit flight, train, whatever, out of Italy booked before I get on the plane to Italy. And the reason is border control might ask to see that I am going to exit the country and have proof. And if they don't ask, in fact, the airline might ask. When you check in at the gate, they might ask to see proof that you have transit booked out of the country. If the next country I'm going to is Spain or, that's in the Schengen zone, and that's a whole thing, so we won't get into that. Let's say I'm going to Kenya after. Before I get on that flight to Kenya, I need to make sure I have my exit transit out of Kenya booked in advance. Second thing I always make sure I book in advance is the first couple of accommodations. I want to lock in a price. I want to make sure I'm able to stay in the area that I want to stay in. I think about booking this like booking a vacation. You might book a couple months in advance. And so the first couple accommodations, maybe that's your first month, maybe it's your first 2 months, you can lock in. Definitely more helpful if those are refundable, if you change your plans. But if it's close in proximity, I'm never too worried. And then third, anything that's going to sell out, I would book in advance. So this comes up most frequently in Europe, where you have these super touristy sites that sell out, like seeing the Colosseum, seeing the Last Supper, these tickets where you can book it 3 months in advance, and once they go on sale, they get sold out. Those kinds of things you want to think about booking in advance if it would break your heart not to see those things while you're there. There are often last-minute tours to to allow you to see those sites where you join a tour group that in essence has bought those tickets a while ago and now they're selling you a higher ticket tour so you can see them. Those are very, very expensive. So if you're on a budget for your trip and you desperately want to go to a number of very well-known, very touristed sites, check, especially if they're in Europe, if you need to book them well in advance and set a reminder, because chances are you will not be able to book them on the fly when you're there. Now, the last thing, which is a personal preference of mine, you have to make your own decision on this because it's in the financial world and I can't give you financial advice. But my personal preference is if I am booking anything on credit card points, I book it as soon as I can. And the reason is I have noticed that my credit card points quickly get devalued. I would far rather, instead of hoarding a bunch of points, oh my God, I have 1 million credit card points, I would rather be spending those on the trip pretty much as soon as I can so that they're not losing value over time. What I usually apply them to are major long-haul flights. I'll even check the dollar to point conversion ratio to make sure in my own mind I'm getting a good deal. But that way I'm not letting those credit card points get devalued, and I'm actually buying myself a little bit more flexibility, because when you book on points, typically you can cancel or change your trip without as many issues as if you had booked in cash. There's a little bit more flexibility in the system. Again, make the decision based on what makes sense for you and your own finances. Don't take financial advice from me, but that's something that I think about for what I want to book for myself in advance. So, quick summary: entry and exit into the country you are about to enter, first couple of accommodations, anything that's going to sell out. And then I also am keen to use my credit card points well in advance. Doing all of that buys me a ton of flexibility. And that way I don't have to undo too much if we're changing our trip down the line, which, by the way, we did plenty of times. Now, all of this doesn't mean you should not have a clear plan for what you're going to do, what you're going to need to book in the future. That is phenomenal to research up front. You're going to save yourself a ton of time down the line. Don't wing your plan. But whether you actually click the button to book, that's a different story. All right, that's tip 22. See you guys tomorrow for 23. If this was interesting to you, if you are curious about long-term travel for yourself, help us out with a like and a subscribe. Travelries is also on Instagram, Threads, Facebook. We've got a weekly Substack, and we publish a monthly mailing list through our website, travelries.com. And on our website, you can also, if you're curious for yourself, book a free consult directly with me to chat about what long-term travel could look like for you. See you guys tomorrow for tip number 23.